Okay, well, good evening to everybody. My clock says 6:31, so I think we will get going. First of all, welcome. The sun is out. It's a beautiful night, so the fact that you're all taking time for doing this tonight is very much appreciated. And this is actually a good time because this is one of the hottest topics around. That some of our city councilors say they get more information on or more questions about this than anything that they've heard. So the main part of this is we're quite blessed to have Dan Mabe, who's the founder of the American Green Zone Alliance, as our main speaker tonight. We're not alone in this, that Portland is doing something. Quiet Clean Alliance in Portland has been working on this. Electrify Now has also been doing it. And I have to do a shout out to my colleague, Kathleen Weens, who really has made this happen. So we're quite grateful that after all her hard work, we're finally underway here. And for those of you that may be new to our organization, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Duke Castle. I'm one of the board members in the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network. We were started in 2013, and the goal was to bring about an ethic and a culture of sustainability in our community. And so we've been working on this for about 8 years. And let me just read the mission statement, that it's to promote an economically and ecologically and socially healthy community, that we will achieve our mission by applying the sustainability framework through action teams, community outreach, and a democratic, highly participative decision-making process embodying diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's who we are, that's what our mission is. And this is our agenda for the evening. And why is this important? Well, we all know about the annoyance of these issues, but it goes much beyond that. We'll touch on that a little bit. And the good news is that this is not happening in a vacuum here at Lake Oswego. There are things happening locally. We'll touch on that. But most of what we'll hear about is from Dan and his organization, how he's been doing this nationwide, working with hundreds of cities and 15 states all over the country. So you'll see this is not just a West Coast issue, that it's something that's happening throughout the country. And after Dan's presentation, Kathleen will talk a little bit about local resources, things that are available here to do this, where you can buy stuff. And also we'll talk a little bit about commercial resources that are available. And we'll have a question and answer session at the end. And after that, and then at the very end, we just want to touch on where do we go from here? We don't want this to just be a solo event. We're hopefully this will be start of something that will build bigger in our community. And we've got some thoughts about that, but we'd like to hear from you about it. And I want to mention that if you have a question, please use the question and answer feature, not the chat feature. I will be looking at and that question and answer is a little button that says Q&A. You should see it maybe at the bottom of your screen or the top of your screen, but it should be there somewhere. Feel free to type a question in at any time. We'll get to it at the end. What we want to save the chat for is if you have ideas of things you want to see us do later or resources that you want us to distribute later, go ahead and do that. But I will not be looking at the chat material for questions and answers. So why should we care? Well, we know about the noise, but my God, the pollution. And when I first saw this data, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm really into electric vehicles. Electric vehicles deal with all the pollution that cars put out, but look at what two-stroke engines do. One lawnmower equals to 300 miles from driving LA to Vegas, or a leaf blower, 1 hour is like driving 1,100 miles from LA to Denver. Not good, particularly if you're somebody doing this all day long. And we know about the noise, that part's annoying, but it's not just for us, it's for the people doing this. That's why we want to find a way to help the workers in our community that are dealing with this. This data is from the CDC National Center for Environmental Health. And in the operator's ear, you can see he or she would be hearing 95 to 100 decibels. Many of them will use earplugs, but not everybody does. And some of them are doing this 4, 5, 6 hours a day, day in and day out. So, and as you can see, the CDC says just 80 to 85 decibels for 2 hours or more can create hearing damage. So this is as big an issue as the annoyance of the noise itself. And as I said, we're not alone. We've been doing stuff, and our city council in February decided they were going to go all electric with the contractors we use for maintenance in our throughout the city for the flower beds and everything else you see. And yes, it cost us more, but the feeling was that it was worth it to do this. So, you know, we may have been the first in Oregon. I'm not sure. Portland's been putting some restrictions on when this stuff happens, but and here for somebody to do this with their contractor really is moving the needle. And at the state level, there's a House Bill 3023, which starts a process to eventually ban these devices throughout the state. It didn't make it to the voting session this session, but there is a hearing coming up next week on the 17th at 1 o'clock. And my guess is it's in the Committee for Energy and Environment. And my guess is this is laying the groundwork for this issue to come back in future sessions. So as I say, we're really quite blessed to have Dan Mabe, the founder and the president of the American Green Zone Alliance. Let me just read a little bit about Dan. That Dan grew up in a landscaping family, and in 2006, he created an all-electric landscaping business, which grew to 70 customers in 1 year. It's not bad. He started the American Green Zone Alliance in 2010 to help make a transition for the landscape maintenance industry to cleaner and quieter technologies and operation. AGSA, as it's known, their efforts have resulted in the creation of green-collar jobs, improved health for workers and communities, and greatly reducing environmental impacts. Tonight, Dan's going to discuss the air and noise pollution issues with gas-powered equipment, the electric equipment that is currently available, the cost comparison between gas and electric, and the return on investment. And you may be surprised to find out that actually the investment is better than you may have thought about, particularly if you're in the business. He will discuss what other communities are doing in regard to transitioning to electric, and he'll talk about what we can do to help business owners transition to electric equipment. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to let Dan come up here, and I'm going to close mine down. So Dan, take it away.
Well, Duke, thank you for that. Those are very kind words. I just want to start out and thank everybody for their time this evening, and especially thank the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, Duke and Kathleen, the tireless work that goes into this. And I also want to acknowledge Quiet Clean PDX, Michael Hall, and Albert Kaufman. We started to engage with them, I think, nearly 3 years ago now. And the work that they've done to lay the foundation to where we are even tonight has just been amazing. And of course, Brian Stewart with Electrify Now. I just wanted to thank those guys. So with that, I know we have a time scheduled to keep. I'm going to go ahead and start screen share, and I'll be looking forward to answering questions later on. Okay. Let me activate to make sure we're sharing the sound. Good. Hmm. One second here. From the beginning. Okay, I apologize about that. Let me start over. Okay, are we seeing any of that?
Yes, it looked like
Okay.
you've gone into your fourth slide.
Okay, all right, there we go. Sorry about that all. Okay. All right, so American Green Zone Alliance, otherwise known as AGZA. Who are we? A leader in low impact grounds maintenance strategies. Our mission is to prudently transition the grounds maintenance industry to quieter, more sustainable practices. Some of the applications are for commercial crews who service municipalities, schools, and residential properties. And we also have a residential program. To mention a few of those, we have some what we feel are some blueprints that people could use. One is our AGZA Green Zone certification. That's property transition. I have a few examples of that. Number two, our AGZA Service Professional certification. That is where we engage the men and women who use the tools to beautify our communities every day. And then other things we do are something called AFTC, where a certification where we test entire tool platforms for the commercial viability and safety. And then we also help air districts and other governmental agencies with workshops, exchanges, and symposiums. So I just wanted to start with this. What got us here? I can remember back in Southern California, LA, there was the leaf blower ban that went into effect in 1998, and the workers were actually on a hunger strike on City Hall. Fast forward to today, this is sweeping the nation. There are well over 200 leaf blower bans, restrictions, ordinances, and it's not just on the West Coast. In fact, the East Coast is catching up quite quickly. And then also there's a cluster in the Midwest that is really gravitating towards this. And what does this tell us? It tells us there's a real issue at hand here, and something really does need to be done about it. So, what does the future look like for this industry? Well, I can assure you it's happening now, but it is entirely different. For example, there's already solar designs being installed and being utilized to charge batteries that are used to run lawn and garden equipment. There's robotics. There's fleet management software and special data analytics that really help us understand what footprint, what impacts this gas industry has on us. And it's going to really tell us how we can move prudently in the future with everybody as a stakeholder. So, I put this slide up, and I want to mention our national nonprofit Quiet Communities, who we do a lot of our green zone certifications with, and our ELF reporting, which I'll demonstrate in a few more slides. But sometimes this is what it feels like. And we all know change is hard, but I think if we all just stick with it, and again, include everyone as the stakeholders, use a solutions approach, engage, educate, outreach, provide resources, I really do feel that this big barge here with all these containers is going to become much smaller and more easier. So some of the barriers to the new technology, it is entrenched position of the fossil fuel infrastructure and our reliance on that for this industry. There's political and regulatory factors. There's still technological barriers. The electric equipment does have its limitations, but we are very upfront about that. And that is why we have been able to transition hundreds of serviceable green space because we work through that. Um, the cost of investing in battery technology up front, of course, is more than its gas counterparts. And then cultural and behavioral factors. We really are stressing and focusing on that. And then again, for tonight, at the bottom, awareness, education, training issues, which we feel we can present some solutions for. Okay, so coming from the gas industry myself, this is our top 10 impacts of gas operations. Noise is, of course, at the top and in the center. It's the most prevalent. And when I speak about noise, noise is physical, it's real, and it impacts people. And I think the industry really has to understand that. We know about the emissions, that's unequivocal with all of the data out there. Lesser known things at the bottom left, toxic waste, solid waste. This is a result of maintaining small gas engines cradled to grave. And of course, coming from the industry, I do have vibration or experienced vibration using gas tools. I do have numbness in my hands to this day. And we know that gas tools require more frequent maintenance and are expensive, more expensive over time. So we're just going to play a little video, and we're going to start with noise. This was actually filmed at a Los Angeles area school district. So I've literally presented this video thousands of times, I think, and I'm always just as annoyed as when I've done it the previous week. That is a two-stroke hedge trimmer, and that was filmed pre-COVID by a mom whose child went to that school, and basically that that is literally how loud it is from that distance. It is definitely going right through the classrooms. So to expand on noise, let's take a look at This Is Us. This is kind of how my house sits in my neighborhood. I can be outside, I can be inside. And then here comes the gas crews. These are, hardworking men and women just trying to do their job to the best of their ability. But unfortunately, the impacts this is the result of those impacts of using those gas tools. This is what it looks like, that sound profile. Now, if they were using electric equipment, this is what that sound profile would look like. And that is what, and here's an example of what it would sound like. I'm sorry, that's the next slide. I apologize. I jumped ahead. Let's take a look at this. Number one, hearing loss is permanent and irreversible. To Duke's point, noise is a very important component of why we need to start to transition away from intensive gas use. Another thing that I would like to mention is frequency. Gas tools operate at low frequencies. There's actually low frequency technology that's used by militaries against their enemies. Low frequencies penetrate barriers very easily, and they travel long distances. Electric tools are going to operate at higher frequencies. I like to use the mosquito analogy that I actually picked up from Joy Walters from Cha Cha. The mosquito is close to your ear. You can hear it, but as it moves away from you, even 8 inches, a foot and a half, that noise profile, that mosquito, it drops off. It's hard to find. Another thing we'd like to mention is gas tools operate at decibel levels that exceed safe working conditions from these agencies that you see at the top: EPA, NIOSH, ANSI, and OSHA. That is why that hearing protection that Duke mentioned is so important to wear. Okay, next slide. We're going to give you an example of what a high frequency component sounds and looks like. Now, this is a 74-inch industrial gas mower. And let's look and hear what it sounds like as it moves away from us. Now, the video was not doctored, period, whatsoever. So we just wanted to give you guys a taste of what it sounds like and what it looks like to convert from gas to electric. Okay, the parking lot tune-up. This is something that I used to do when I was in the gas industry. I'm not proud of it, but this is something that is associated with using gas tools cradle to grave.
We have the filter right off the carburetor. They get a little gas and oil on it. We put that into the gas, swish it around. You can see how dirty it gets.
This is the process of which you extend the life of the filter.
Right.
What happens to this gas that now has the grit, the grease, the dirt inside of it?
Normally we can pour it in some dirt, or we throw it away in the trash can.
It could end up in a landfill as well, or poured into the bushes.
Sure.
We would like to tell everybody that Jeff is 50% electric now. Therefore, all of the impact issues that go along with using gas tools is cut in half for his operation. To expand on that, we've been shadowing other gardeners in LA County for nearly 10 years now, coming from the industry myself. We can estimate that one worker will account for 50 pieces of solid and toxic waste that ends up in landfills. And this stuff, of course, cannot be recycled. And then another reason, and I know that Duke had mentioned this, is the workers. This is Fair Warning, everybody, fairwarning.org. They did a study right here in our neighborhood where they hooked up hygienic sensors to the workers using these gas tools. And what they found was very alarming. The workers in the worst case scenario with this Red Max blower were exposed to 53 times higher particle pollution exposure than standing next to the busiest intersection in the city. There's plenty of studies that tell you when you live near a very busy highway, freeway, that your life expectancy could lower. I really encourage everybody to go to fairwarning.org and research the entire study. And AGSA has been addressing worker health and environmental justice for the workers of this industry for nearly a decade now. And it's very refreshing to hear that people are starting to open up their eyes and give this some consideration. Okay, enough of that. We know very thoroughly now some of the problems, but let's go to some of the solutions. This is an example of institutional AGSA Green Zone certification. City of South Pasadena, they were the first. Their certification is actually nearly 6 years old. And what they did with their certification is they phased out all gas tools for routine maintenance. And now under the standard of the Green Zone certification, people powered and electric are used for all routine maintenance. How did we do it? For this project, we started with one of their larger parks, Garfield Park, nearly 10 acres, 5 acres of grass. We worked with their Department of Public Works and their vendor. And we conducted a very thorough beta back then and test. And it went so well that we made an action plan with the city to finish Green Zone certifying all city property within a year. We were able to meet that timeline. And back then, it was a really big deal. We had a ceremony here. where, of course, mayor, city council, the vendors, local environmental groups, and even members of Congress and Senate were present at the ceremony. And just to let everybody know, it was not for show. There is dough in their contract, just like Lake Oswego. And congratulations, by the way. All of the vendors need to be AGSA certified or equivalent, but they still have to adhere to the AGSA green zone standard, regardless if they're trained by us. Nearby golf course heard about this and wanted to do it. This is a par 3, 18 hole par 3. It's only a par 3, but it's a huge property. We lowered the carbon out of these operations by 70%. That noise profile lowered 40 to 70%. And believe me, all the surrounding homes of the course are loving it. On a state level, this is California State Parks. This is LA State Historic Park, is now an AGSA green zone. And what's great about this project is it's really piqued the interest of the park's headquarters in Sacramento. We're nearing the completion of our second state park certification, and we're already starting a third. So again, these are a solutions-based approach, and it's working. And then finally, I wanted to show this because this is an auto mower or a robotic mower green zone. This one's in Illinois. We did this with the Langton Group. They are an AGSA certified service pro company, and they're one of only a very few companies that can actually create green zones with us, with municipalities. They have to be vetted very carefully. But as you can see there, you have that auto mower. It's actually charged by those solar panels. It's completely off grid for the mowing. And then you can see that that worker is using a backpack electric handheld blower hooked up to a backpack battery. And here are some of the metrics of that project. It's a 96 unit HOA, almost 30 serviceable acres. We saved 8.5 tons of smog forming emissions, 28 tons of CO2. And of course, we lowered that noise profile 40 to 70%. And then with that, we mitigate all of that fuel spillage and all of that toxic and solid waste component. All of our projects come with what we call an ELF report, environmental landscape footprint. We do measure the CO2, the criteria pollution, that fuel spillage, and then we give an assessment on the noise profile improvement. Sometimes people want it even more granular. We can do that. We typically don't, but this is something we did for the city of Ojai. We actually broke it down by tool where that pollution was coming from in their overall operations. And they decided to just have a sweeping conversion, but some look at this and opt to take care of hotspots first. Okay, Service Pro certification. This is very near and dear to my heart. I just really want to say we really feel we're making the biggest difference with this program. These guys, they're out there, they're doing this, but they're doing it to make our communities look clean, have order, and keep our property values at their highest. And this is all they know. This is all they've been afforded to for the past 4 decades. It's very important we don't demonize the worker. We need to engage the gas industry and educate them. This is an example of large mower training at the city of Los Angeles. And per COVID guidelines, we actually did the classroom portion on the side of, on the back of that bathroom building right there. But we can't wait till that improves and we're able to actually get back in the classrooms. But again, the engagement, the education is very important. What we do is we empower the workforce with knowledge. And some of them didn't even know how bad these tools were for them. And then after they do this, they're like, wow, this is amazing. We get a lot of positive feedback from the workers themselves who have made the transition, that they don't need to go home smelling like gas, and they do feel better in general. Here's a company. I hope they're coming to your neck of the woods soon. They certainly have started in Florida. We did a corporate certification for SunTech. They now have a van starting literally 12 miles away from my house. What's unique about this company is this solar panel on top of this van, it charges all of the batteries that power the tools. And when I did the certification, I verified that this is true. Over 95% of their charging for the batteries they use on their tools come from this solar design on their van. Here's an example of the old on the left and the new on the right. We are doing a great job with the Mow, Blow, and Go, are the independent pickup truck operators. While they have not converted wholesale, we definitely are convincing them to incorporate this technology. And we're trying to really impress upon them the business opportunity that exists if they are able to do this. My favorite one coming down the stretch on this section, Cadre. They outbid Brightview. They outbid Landcare. They outbid some of the bigger regional companies that exist. And they were able to do this with their certification and by going electric with this lucrative business park account. Why do we need certification? Well, I'm going to give you a few examples. First of all, it gives the industry people who have been working in the gas industry a fundamental understanding of how to transition safely and then responsibly and then also successfully. Here's one of the reasons. This company called us up 3 times. And then, we told them what we offer, what the services run. And then we never heard back from them. We get a call from them 6 months later, and they said that this wasn't working out. And when I went over there, this is what I ran into. Not only is this a huge safety hazard, this is roughly $8,500, $9,000 worth of tools, and they probably can't even go back and use the warranty because they're just abused and mistreated. And this is because they didn't have the knowledge. And just let everybody know on keeping this going on the batteries, we're closing the loop. Another reason why we need to engage the workforce is after batteries are at the end of their life, they're going into the trash can already. We really need to close the loop on lithium. It's great. We have all these benefits, but we don't want to create another problem while solving, we don't want to solve one problem and create another. So this is why we engage the workers and we really help them understand what they need to do with the batteries after their serviceable life. Here's an example of that. These are used Tesla Model 3 cells, and we actually put them and converted this greens mower at our Green Zone golf course. This thing has been working flawlessly for almost a year. We help with safe charging infrastructure. And then here's what the city of Glendale, who just completed 8 Green Zone properties with us. This is their setup versus this setup. Okay, so coming down the stretch, everybody, I just really want to take a little breath here because this is the section that I really feel is the most important. We need a paradigm shift in societal thinking about what our landscapes should look like. And if we can do that and work with the gas industry, then I really feel we can have this convergence and have massive success. Here is your typical home, hyper manicured landscaping. And I definitely want to thank Tony Lund from Sustainable Princeton for letting us use a few of these slides. This is typical right here. It's neat, it's uniform, it's definitely clean. but it's bland. And to me, it looks void of life. Then we look at this. This is much easier on my eyes. And everybody, don't panic. There's leaves on the ground. Leave the leaves. Let them stay there. Let's enjoy the beauty. And then when the gardener comes, or if you do your own home, mulch those leaves instead of vacuuming everything up, blowing it around, and making it look like this. Here's another thing you could do. You could take some of your grass out. You can put in biodiversity, pollinators, and create a beautiful garden. Look how beautiful this looks in the fall. Look at the textures, look at the colors. If I were the service person for this home, I would just get a broom and broom those leaves off the walkways right back onto the grass. Or not. Here's what it looks like when you hyper manicure that situation. Again, this versus this. I don't know about you, but I know which one I like better. So the landscaper, a lot of us are busy. We're busy making a living. We have our gardeners, and sometimes we just don't have time to communicate properly with them. So the landscaper has been conditioned that everybody expects and wants this. And believe me, they have a nice truck of gas industrial tools to give it to you. The homeowner, sometimes we don't know what we want. And again, we're too busy. We don't know a lot. So it reverts back to this. So this is why I encourage everybody to really start communicating with their gardeners. What can we do today or tomorrow morning or the next time your gardener comes to the home? Well, the first and foremost is stop or reduce gas leaf blower use. Mulch leaves with a mower, use rakes and brooms in selected areas, use electric blowers, but use them efficiently and judiciously. Even if you go to electric, we have very specialized components of our certification where even with electric, they are taught not to kick up dust plumes and to really be on par with heavy sweeping. Homeowners, can you consider paying your gardener a little more money to go electric and use people-powered tools? And gardeners, if there's any of you out there, we message to them, consider how important you are to the community and quality of life that you work in. There's an example of our residential green zone initiative, otherwise known as ARGZI. You can go on our website and check out the page. Here's Jared. He attended one of our workshops and he was a little naive going back and asking his gardener to use electric tools. The gardener just said, no. So he went out and purchased his own and he did his own yard work for a while. And then he re-engaged his gardener and asked his gardener if he would just use the suite of electric tools that he purchased and not bother taking the tools off of the truck. I'm happy to say that that is the arrangement now. And they created their own little AGZA residential green zone. Here's an old timer in the Bronx. He has a flat there. That's his second electric mower. He uses it for a little patch of grass in the backyard. Everything else, he still uses people-powered tools. And then on that note, people-powered tools, here's a group in Altadena, California. They use all people-powered tools, nothing motorized. They're very proud of it, and they're creating what we call people-powered green zones. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation. I really want to thank everybody again for letting us share that with you. I'm going to stop share, and then when it's time, I would be more than happy to answer some questions. Thank you.
Dan, thank you. I want to get back here. Okay. Dan's website's got a lot of good information. He's got a list of commercial equipment, and a lot of other good information. So I would absolutely recommend you go ahead and do that. But Kathleen, why don't you come up here? and tell us about what the local options are.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Weens, and I'm a board member on the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network. And it's been so wonderful to work with Duke and with Dan and with Quiet Clean PDX and Electrify Now. And it's just so exciting to see the awesome things happening in regard to people learning about the possibilities with electric. My husband and I first bought electric landscaping equipment in 2015. We got a mower and a hedge trimmer, and we're still using them. They work great. We found them at Lowe's for a very reasonable price. And this picture here is at Lake Oswego Ace Hardware. And we, a few months ago, just bought 2 more electric pieces of equipment, a chainsaw, and then also a more powerful hedge trimmer. And it works so good. We've been using that equipment a lot. And what we heard about from a neighbor during the recent ice storm and power outage, that he was using his battery from his landscaping equipment. He had an inverter and he was charging up his TV and his charging his phone. So since then we purchased a Ego inverter. So now we can charge our refrigerator, lights, phones, etc. So that's another cool thing, that you can interchange the batteries and then also use them for power. So and what we're also seeing is Steel Equipment is doing a big marketing push. This ad was in the Lake Oswego Review recently, a half-page ad advertising their battery equipment starting at $200. And I also noticed in the Wall Street Journal recently that they had a full-page ad on the Steel Equipment. And if you go into, like I said, Ace has a great display of the Ego equipment, but going into Lowe's, you'll see aisle after aisle and displays and end caps of electric equipment. So last time I was in there, it looked to me like it was more than half of the equipment is now electric, with prices ranging from $200 and up. And you can also find the same thing in Home Depot. So it's great that the residential equipment is readily available. And one of the local landscapers, Oswego Yard, they started up 2 years ago, and they're using all Ego equipment. So anyways, it's great to see so much available. And thanks to Quiet Clean PDX, I started doing some research for our April newsletter on who are the electric landscaping companies that offer an electric option. So I found some from their website. And then of course, the original Oswego Yard Care, that is 2 guys that have more business they can handle, because everybody wants the electric equipment. And so then the 2 contractors on here, Seagraves Landscaping Service and Storm Landscaping Services, are the 2 contractors that the city just gave the electric contract to. So on the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network's website, we have all of these listed with links to their businesses. So you can contact them and see about getting their services. So it's just exciting because the list is growing. And I know this is not a comprehensive list, but just what we pulled together recently.
Okay, Dan, why don't you come back and join us? And let me pull, let's see what we got here. Okay, first question I've got here is, what are current thoughts on electric farm equipment for rural areas? Dan, have you had any experience on that?
That's awesome, because yes, and that's just recently. We're engaging a company that is now converting gas farm equipment to electric, and we're in the process of vetting its viability. We can't just take people's word for it, but I can assure you that this is happening right now. And I would say by first quarter next year, there's going to be a couple of different options on the market.
One thing that folks in Lake Oswego may not know, but our city manager, Martha Bennett's husband, runs an organization called Fourth Mobility. And Fourth Mobility right now has a test program on electric tractors going on here in Oregon. So this really comes home for us. Second question is, can we get a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. When we're through, we'll upload this to our YouTube channel. make that the video available, and also Dan's going to give us a copy, PDF copy of his slides. We'll have our slides. So yeah, we've got that. I don't have any other questions. Oh, what just popped up? Okay, with the backpack battery powered blowers, what is a general runtime before needing to charge up? Dan, can you answer that?
Sure. With some of the backpack batteries, you can get up to 3 hours on one charge if it's used properly and judiciously. Now, worst case scenario, if it's being used irresponsibly and inefficiently, it will still get roughly anywhere from an hour and 5 minutes, and some of them up to an hour and 17 minutes. And they are boasting around 500 CFMs or more. And that is good Newton force and air volume sustained for that long. But again, with the run times on those blowers, the key is to use them efficiently and properly and judiciously to maximize that run time and that efficiency.
So Dan, for gas folks, they carry gas cans around. I'm assuming you probably recommend to the electric folks, they carry some batteries with them. Is that correct?
Yes, you guys had mentioned some of the companies there. I'm sure they've already figured it out, but how we've been able to accomplish converting such large areas as we spec out the workload, and then enough battery bank needs to be purchased to handle that workload, that given workload throughout the day. Instead of having gas cans on the truck or in the shop, you're going to have a battery bank, and instead of refueling gas tanks, you'll just basically be swapping batteries out throughout the day and then bringing them back to the charging hub to charge overnight is where we found the best option. But you did have that company, and there's more and more companies that are setting up these solar designs on their trailers, on their trucks, and they really are charging a lot of their batteries throughout the day. They need very little grid charging. And I don't know what that would look like, though, for the Northwest, because I know you guys don't receive as much sunlight throughout the year, but it's still something that I would be interested to know if someone's doing up there.
Well, actually, Dan, we do very well with solar up here. So it very well might. Next question here is, has any city council member expressed interest in looking at a citywide regulations, the city manager? I don't know if Martha has. I did talk to Mayor Buck before this. He was very interested in watching this. He couldn't join us tonight because the city council's having a budget committee meeting, but I made a pitch that they look at putting a little bit of money in their budget to maybe get Dan back up here and do something. So as I said earlier, we're hoping this will be the first of a process that will work for all of us. Next question, is the electric equipment heavier than the gas powered equipment? What is the cost differential between the two types of equipment? Dan, what would you say?
In some cases, yes. I think the feedback from some of the smaller top handle and rear handle chainsaws that they can be a little bit heavier for that smaller chainsaw category. Some of the backpack batteries can exceed some of the gas leaf blower models out there, but the most industrial gas leaf blowers are going to be comparable in weight to that backpack battery that you wear or a backpack leaf blower. So in some cases, they can be heavier than their gas counterparts, but it does depend on which gas counterpart you're comparing it to. And then what was the second question again, Duke?
Well, it was the cost differential.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this would be a good time to go into some of that cost benefit, if you will. Let's take blowers, for example. It costs on average here in California with our gas prices and two-stroke oil, it's going to cost around $1.50 an hour to operate a gas leaf blower. For the electric, it's going to be anywhere from 22 to 26 cents per hour, depending on the cost per kilowatt hour. An electric system with a backpack battery and a tool, and the blower, the tool, and the charger is going to run about $1,000 to $1,100, and then an industrial professional two-stroke gas leaf blower can be anywhere from $450 to $650. But then what you have to what you have to realize is day one, you're putting two-stroke oil and gas mix into that thing, and then you're going to be giving it tune-ups. We've done this for a very long time, 10 years, and we know unequivocally if you can get the electric tools to year 2.5 to 3 years, you've already reached your ROI, and then you're getting into what we call that gravy period. So I would say on average, they're going to be about 40 to 45% more than their gas counterparts with some of the most of the commercial stuff. But that is actually starting to shrink a little bit as the years go by. Another analysis is that riding mower. The average cost to operate a 60-inch riding ZTR mower is going to be about $7. And that's going to be here in California, and where gas prices are highest, of course. But that gas one, that electric one, it's going to cost about 60 to 85 cents per hour to operate. The gas one, 5 to 7, depending on where you are in the country. So if you are able to put 600 hours on that mower per year, you should get your ROI on that electric mower in 2.5 to 3 years. Great.
Another question, are there any buyback opportunities when purchasing new electric equipment? In fact, somebody also is asking, is there trade-in gas for electric? Have you seen anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The South Coast Air Quality Management District, Antelope Valley, AQMD, El Centro, we can list 10 here in California. In fact, we're on contract with a lot of these air districts to help them with these programs, with outreach, with education, training. And down here, let me tell all of you the best one. It's South Coast Air Quality Management District. Commercial operators can trade in their old gas tools, and they receive these new commercial electric kits for 75% discount. It's just amazing. It's really accelerated the progress here and allowed some of these larger green zones to take place. We encourage everybody in the country to look at these models and consider finding various funding mechanisms that might be out there.
Good. Another question. A neighbor of mine has concerns that battery-powered mowers have challenges with heavy, wet grass found here in the Pacific Northwest. What's your experience with gas versus battery in wet, heavy grass situations?
That's a legitimate concern. A few years ago, the electric definitely where they stood struggled with wet grass, especially wet clover. But again, you guys have some unique conditions, but some of the advances that the companies have made have closed that gap. But definitely what we have found when we've done our testing of a gas and electric side by side, as the technology stands now, some of the commercial electric mowers are pretty close to the gas ones, and we know that the gas ones also bog down and take a lot of abuse in those types of conditions as well. Electric is going to probably struggle a little bit more, but then you're going to have to kind of adjust those deck heights. but that has been narrowed significantly. But that definitely is a legitimate concern for that local condition that exists in those regions up there.
You know, I can speak personally on this. We bought an electric mower, I want to say 15, maybe more years ago, and it struggled with wet grass. But I got a new one maybe 5 or 6 years ago, no problem now. So I'd say it's improved considerably. And I mean, I used to not want to cut the grass when it was wet. Now it's no problem. So
Yeah. Yeah, and Duke, a lot of the mowers out there, even well, the homeowner ones like the Egos, the Steels, a lot of them have sensors in them. And when it senses that it's in thicker stuff, it will accelerate the tip speed and RPM of the blade. So definitely paralleling the electric car industry as far as speed controllers, brushless motors, lithium batteries with battery management systems. Yes, they're rather sophisticated tools, and I would say that they can handle the wet grass a lot better. Absolutely.
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what my new mower does. When it gets thick, I can hear it speed up, and it's cutting the grass. What it tells me is it's time to empty the bag. So, you know,
Exactly.
yeah, good. Let's see, when you do training with landscapers, do you have class and information materials in Spanish?
Yes, absolutely. Our online certification course is in Spanish and English. When we do webinars, if it's requested, we have Spanish bilingual Spanish-speaking representatives that help us. So we are fully bilingual.
Great. Let's see, a couple others. Just a reminder that House Bill 3023, the hearing will be on Monday. There's a question with this. How can we help build the national movement to eliminate gas leaf blowers? Any thoughts about that?
I'll let you guys chime in on this too. I think coming from the industry, I think it's a lot of different things. We like this engagement with the gas industry, providing resources and solutions, but I really feel the homeowner, the property owner component. At the end of the day, it's the property owner's decision what occurs on their property. And if we can educate the homeowner base as well, what harms gas leaf blowers cause our society, then I think that communication again between the service provider and the homeowner, along with all of these resources, are going to help a lot. I know in some cases, people, everybody, I get frustrated to this day. I get frustrated every day because I hear and I'm around a gas leaf blower every day, literally. And I know that people really want a solution, and sometimes regulation and ordinances are a component of that as well.
Yeah. Question, has the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network engaged the medical community to support this as a public health issue? Kathleen, I'm not sure if you were on SAB at this time, but I do remember attending a meeting a couple of years ago where a doctor spoke about this.
Yes.
Were you there for that?
Yes. Yeah, there's a doctor in our neighborhood that he had done posts on Nextdoor and was very vocal. I think he's a lung specialist. So he was doing a lot of discussions, and I've emailed with him a number of times in regard to his concerns with the gas powered leaf blowers.
Yeah. Well, we know they are concerned, and if we're able to move forward with this and make the transition we're talking about, then we absolutely would like to get the medical community even more engaged. Let me see what else we've got here. Let's see. You mentioned programs for trade-in for gas equipment for electric. Have you seen or know of allied programs for collection of batteries that are at the end of life for disposal or recycling? What do they offer? sometimes besides just dumping in the landfill and hopefully recovery of the rare metals. You touched this a little bit with your example of using the Tesla batteries, and I've heard Tesla battery, or not just Tesla, but electric vehicle batteries being used in data centers. So there's a second life for this, but and I also know that one of the founders of Tesla, Dan Struby, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, has got a business called Redwood Materials dedicated to the recycling of lithium batteries from cars and other places. And I also know the car manufacturers know this is a big issue and they're all aligning themselves. But Dan, can you comment any more about this?
Absolutely. We're working with a group who just received a grant from Cal Recycle here in California, and they're bringing AGSA on as the outreach component to the industry to make sure that these batteries are first and foremost recovered. All of the manufacturers that we work with or that we've tested and we've been able to vet, we know that there is a mechanism for them to take the battery back to the place of where they purchased it. Now, from there, we know, just like you mentioned, Duke, that there's some amazing second life projects going on. There's a company called Big Battery, literally 15 minutes away from my house, and they're making flashlights out of old cylindrical cells. They're making those startup servers for those data centers. And in fact, of course, they're making these big batteries that we're using to power that big golf equipment. They are getting in like the Lime scooters, e-bikes, batteries from Nissan Leafs and from Teslas all over the place. Now they tell us whatever, the first option is to repurpose, but whatever they can't repurpose, they do have a mechanism and an economy to harvest all of the rare materials from the cells that they can't give a second life to. So I would say 5 years ago, this was non-existent, but this has really progressed very rapidly recently, and we're very relieved because, again, we're very mindful to close the loop, and we do not want this to become an issue.
Well, absolutely. One of the issues that's arising in the electric vehicle world is maybe a shortage of materials to make batteries.
Yep.
And so folks, the car companies are beginning to realize there's a lot of value in just doing what you're saying, Dan, totally recycling, reclaiming the materials in the batteries so that they can be used again and basically close the loop on it.
Yep.
So, yeah. Not a question, but let's see, a statement. Somebody says there's information of studies on how wildlife and birds are better off with electric equipment versus power. Sounds good to me. I don't know, Dan or Kathleen, if you have any more you'd want to say about any studies showing the benefit of electric on wildlife.
Kathleen, you have anything?
Well, I know that in regard to the air pollution emissions, that would be greatly reduced. So that would be a positive thing, that you don't have the air quality issues. And then the fact that the electric is a different frequency, so then the noise impacts are not as strong on the habitat as well. And I'm always going to do my plug, like use a rake and leave the leaves.
Yeah.
So I'm big on I have a gold certified backyard habitat. So I'm really big on just leave a lot of the leaves when you can.
Well, there's a comment here that the Audubon Society would be interested in our efforts. And indeed, one of our board members, Mary Radcliffe, is an avid birder. She's going this weekend. So the fact we've got Mary working on this, I think the birds are going to be in good shape from this.
You know, just from observation over the years, though, Duke, I can tell you, it seems like pets, dogs, cats. I just noticed that they don't seem to be as bothered by the electric tools, but I just would think of like what it would be like to be the size of a little lizard, and then here comes any powerful airflow going through a garden bed and just flushing everything out, and again stripping the soil of all the organic material. Is, you know, there's a lot of learning to do here, right? I mean, this is operations and practice and information. So I can only assume that, you know, there could be a lot of impact on wildlife, especially the smaller ones, you know, bees and insects and the smaller animals that live in our yards.
Great.
Yeah, one other quick thing, that we just had a soil forum, and obviously the value of healthy soils, and all the blowing is not doing any benefit for our soils. So I agree that it should be very selective blowing, because it's I can see, I look at neighbors' yards where there's a lot of leaf blowing going on, and boy, that dirt doesn't look good. So the soil does not look good.
Only on hardscape, Kathleen, only on hardscape, and then very judiciously.
Right.
And absolutely, and like you can qualify for a people powered green zone, and you're already your gold standard. I did not know that. I just found out here.
Great. Well, that takes care of the questions. So let me, so we've talked about, we want this to be the start of something. And Dan's doing a lot of good work. He's worked with a lot of people. We'd love to get Dan back, but we want to go infuse this into the community. So we just put some things here. We could bring Dan's group back and maybe do a landscaping equipment fair and a workshop, but maybe there's more education the network can do. Maybe there's incentives and trade-ins, discount pricing that we may be able to work out with the city. And we're looking for other ideas. I mean, if you have anything, you can either put it in the chat box while we're still live here, or you can send us an email at info@losn.org. So with that, first of all, Dan, thank you so much. This is great. I mean, when we started this, I thought we only had one landscaper here that could go electric. Who knew we had 10 and we have more going on? So we hope that's
awesome.
going to continue to grow. This is, as I mentioned, we do these events every month. So let me just give a plug for next month's event. It's going to be Thursday, June 10th, and it's called Turning Ocean Waves into Electricity. And my colleague and the board member, Bob Sack, has arranged this. Bob has arranged to have the Oregon State University professor, Burke Hales, come and speak about what could be groundbreaking, or maybe I should say ocean-breaking research that OSU is doing to use the motion of waves to generate electricity. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kathleen. We will be sending information out later with the link to this, and let's just keep the conversation going. Thank you and good night.
Good night. Be well.